everyone, Steve from Backcountry Gallery here, and I'm coming to you today from inside my camper down in the Smoky Mountains. I was sitting here doing backups of the images I shot this morning, and I thought it might be fun to show you how I do backups when I'm out on the road. By the way, this tip, along with hundreds of others, happens to be included in my ebook, Secrets to Stunning Wildlife Photography, so make sure you check that out. There is lots of good stuff in there, and I know you're absolutely going to love it. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm on a good photo trip, one of my primary concerns is always keeping my images safe. In fact, most of the time, I'd rather have my gear stolen than lose my images. And I know if my insurance company is watching this, they're probably screaming, don't tell them that. But, you know, the truth is, the gear can be replaced. But losing a once-in-a-lifetime image or images is even worse in my book since, hey, by definition, you'll never get those again. What I do is actually pretty simple. I like to control my files every step of the way, so I don't use any, special software or fancy backup system or anything. I simply start by creating a folder for my current trip, usually right on my computer desktop. In this case, I'm in the Smoky Mountains, so I'll start with a folder named GSM June 2015. That folder will later go to a master folder on my main computer that has all my 2015 images in it. Next, I pop my memory cards into their respective readers and copy my new images right to that folder. Sometimes I'll toss in some subfolders for specific types of shots, like say wildlife or landscape, but most of the time I just dump everything into the main folder and then I sort it out later. Okay, I'm going to cut away for a minute to interject something I neglected to mention when I first did this video. If you shoot multiple cameras of the same brand, sometimes when you dump the files all into one folder, you find that you have the same file name coming from both of those cameras. For example, I might have two D810 cameras and both happen to have snapped a file name DSC2587. Since I can't have two files with the same name in the same folder, well, I have a problem. Now, there are multiple ways to solve this, but the easiest way, in my opinion, is to change the file prefix in each of your cameras. Many cameras can do this, and it allows you to have unique file names coming out of every camera. As a side bonus, if you ever start seeing an issue with some of your images, having unique file prefixes helps you identify the camera that's causing the problem. Now, of course, if you can't adjust your file name prefixes, you'll have to save to multiple folders, maybe set up one for each camera. So, anyhow, back to the camper. At any rate, once my files are copied to my laptop, I then back them up to a minimum of two different places. The first, one of these external hard drives. I just drag and drop the folder, or if I'm adding to the backup, I'll just drag and drop the new files onto the folder that's already there from my previous backup. By the way, yes, I have been known to use two backup drives if I'm on an extended trip, because I'm super paranoid about data theft and loss. Now, once I back up to my external drive, or sometimes drives, I then back up to a large SD card. Now at first this may sound a little odd, but the reason I do this is so that I can keep the SD card in my wallet and always have a backup copy of my images right on my person at all times. Again, super paranoid about the theft thing, so even if I'm driving home and someone breaks in my car and steals everything in it, at least I'll still have my photos. Now, this SD card doesn't have to be high speed or even expensive, it's simply for backup. For me, I just actually grabbed one of my extra 64 gig SD cards since I ended up with a few extras due to putting my first two in hiding places that were, at least temporarily, a little bit too good. I actually have never used more than a couple of 64 gigs for backup on a trip, so of course, you'll want to pick a size that works for you, and ideally is to get everything onto one card, but you know what? Two's not unmanageable either, so. I also like to keep my backups as physically separate as possible when I'm on trips. If everything is together and disaster strikes, you don't want to lose both of your backups at once. For example, if you keep your laptop in your camper or your hotel room, hide your external hard drive someplace in your car. Conversely, if you keep your laptop with you in the car, hide the external drive in your camper or your hotel room. I actually usually just take my external drive and bury it in my luggage or my dirty laundry. Just please don't wash your external drive when you get home. Of course, when you're driving home, keeping the backups physically separated is much, much more difficult. I usually try to keep my laptop and external drives as far apart in the car as possible, so if someone does a smash and grab, it minimizes the chances of them getting them both. But this is where the SD card in your purse or wallet can bring some extra peace of mind. Now, what about the memory cards you just backed up from the camera? Should you reformat those or just stick them back in? Well, I have a couple of thoughts on that. If I'm shooting wildlife, I generally go ahead and I reformat them. It seems like if I don't, I'll run out of space and then maybe even overflow space if my camera supports that, and then I need to change the card at the absolute worst possible time, and I'll miss some absolutely amazing moment. So once I'm 100% sure my images are copied and saved, I'll put the cards back in the camera and then I'll reformat. Now for landscapes, it's a different story. I use a 64 gigabyte card in my DA10, and I very seldom actually run into issues with it filling up. And if I do, I still have an overflow card that would be in no danger of getting filled during a typical landscape shoot, so I usually leave my images on my landscape card as a kind of additional backup. Of course, this all depends on the size of your cards, so you'll have to make your own decisions here. So anyhow, that's my simple little system. In my opinion, it's a good way to keep your images safe and secure as you travel, and I hope it helps you. By the way, this is just one of the hundreds of tips you're going to find in my new ebook, Secrets to Stunning Wildlife Photography. In addition to backups, that same chapter also discusses ideas to keep your gear safe when you travel. You know, things like where you should never bring out your camera, the best types of bags and backpacks to use, how not to advertise your gear to thieves, and tons more. And that's only one chapter. The book also covers hundreds of technical and artistic aspects of wildlife photography. Check it out at the link below. I think you're going to see why thousands of wildlife photographers have already purchased this book. Also, make sure you sign up for my YouTube channel and stop by my site and sign up for my free email newsletter as well. Tons of great video and info are coming up, and I don't want you to miss any of it, and it's all announced right there in that newsletter. That's it for today, so I'm going to sign off from the Smokies, a trip that was made possible, by the way, from your generous contributions. So a big shout out and thank you to everyone who has helped out and contributed at the site. It is very much appreciated, and you have my sincere thanks. You guys are absolutely awesome. Thank you. And also, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day.